1,000 miles away before we even get there.
One goddamn ultralight all by our lonesome. We're fucking useless.
Sir, there's another option.
You have a mission assigned to you by your true people. You will complete it.
Mark, listen to me. Say you'll do it. Say fine. I'll take over the planet. You can't beat her, kid. Say it. Get her to leave and we'll get ready for these assholes together. Goddamn words, Mark.
Do it.
Either you need me, or you don't. Make up your mind.
Killing you is not my task. But soon, another will come. And if he finds you still resistant to your destiny, he will demonstrate the error of your ways, and this whole planet will pay the price. I pray you come to your senses before then.
Guess there's no class today. Fuck. Bro, I could have got myself a fucking bowl. Fuck.
The bottom line is, don't start no shit, then there won't be no shit. Don't start no shit, then there won't be no shit. The bottom line is, don't start.
Oh my god, you're gonna have your way with me, then kill me.
No, I think we're just gonna kill you.
Oh, I see. So your buddies over there, they know you're gay?
This meeting is being recorded.
Can y'all hear me? Awesome, thank you. Sorry for the late start. Had a work meeting run over. Alright. I just had an announcement I'm going to give everybody till 6:15 trickle in before we hop in to the nitty-gritty here. About 3 weeks left for tonight, so we got running down pretty quickly here with this class. How's everybody's weekend? Pretty good, alright. Give it another minute or two here. Alright, welcome. Nice class. Again, thanks for allowing me to start a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and take attendance really quick here, and then we'll get started. Those of you just joining, I had work when you run over, so I had to start class a little bit later. Alright, I'm going to take attendance here really quick, and then we'll hop in. For the most part tonight, we'll be covering a couple more of those exercises from last week. And then there's a video we'll be watching tonight as well on some more auto layout stuff. And then we have 2 exercises to do on that Bragi exercise in Figma. And I'm also going to walk you guys through Project 6. That's coming up in a few weeks. So you can get some information into what's expected for that project. That'll be your second to last project before final one, which is 7. Project 7 again is going to be a lot of prototyping. So we'll get you ramped up for that as well. So you'll be ready for that final project, and then you should be good to go. Just finishing up here with the attendance. While I do that, any questions, general questions so far? Maybe you want to bring up? If not, let me just quickly get that attendance here. All right. Awesome. One thing I want to call out as well here is and I think pretty much all of you are doing pretty well, but we are coming up on the deadline for dropping classes. So I'm going to give you a general heads up. I think it's on the 27th. So it's time for self-reflection to kind of look through all your materials, your grades, make sure everything where it needs to be, so you have some time to pivot if you need to, so that way you can finish strong at the end of the semester. If you have any questions about that or any details, I'm happy to share that as well with you. Alright, so let's hop into the first part of class here. I'm going to share that video. I'll watch that video about 11.5 minutes long, and then we'll hop into some of those additional materials here. Just let me know if you could hear the video once I share my screen.
We'll teach you how to create dynamic auto layout cards with
Alright, awesome. So I'm going to play from the beginning.
In this video, teach you how to create dynamic auto layout cards with images that can fit descriptions of various lengths. We'll use some skills shown in our earlier videos on auto layout, so be sure to watch those first. If you enjoyed this tutorial series on auto layout, subscribe to our channel to be notified of the next video in the series, and leave us a comment on what to cover next. You can also get a copy of the Tripma design file from the video description. We'll start by creating 2 text layers. One for the title that will be size 18 semi-bold, and another regular weight with the font size of 16 for the description. Let's also change the fill colors of these text layers. Select both layers and add auto layout. Since we stacked our text layers vertically, the direction is already set to vertical. Ensure the space between items property is 8, and set the padding to 16 on the top and bottom, and 24 left and right. Add a white fill and rename this to card details. This isn't looking much like a card yet, so let's set a fixed width, but this time, we'll convert the auto layout frame to fixed width by dragging one edge to resize. Doing this changes the horizontal resizing property to fixed and enables the width property, which we want to be 400. Now, let's add an image to our card. Using the rectangle tool, create a rectangle that is 400 by 400. Then, use Shift-Command-K and select an image to replace the default gray fill with an image. The image should be placed above the title and description in our card. To add it, you might think we should just click and drag the image into the top of our auto layout frame, so let's demonstrate why that won't give us the right result. Because the image layer is wider than the auto layout frame's width, minus its padding, Figma won't automatically nest it. We can hold down Command to override this nesting behavior. Because we added the image directly to the same auto layout frame, it uses the same padding values. And because the image has fixed dimensions, it's overflowing the card. To fix the overflow issue, we can change the resizing property of the image to fill container so it only fills up the available space. And we end up with a card that looks a bit like a Polaroid or Instax photo, with the border around the edges of the image. That's not what we're aiming for, so let's undo those steps. Now, instead of adding the card to our existing auto layout frame, let's select both objects and add auto layout, and set space between items to 0. This new outer auto layout frame has 0 padding, so the card is borderless with the image extending all the way to the edges. We've got the foundation of our card looking great. We just need to address a few functionality quirks. If we were to enter a long description for this card, the text would continue to the outside of the card's boundaries. Because the card details frame is set to fixed width, it won't grow to accommodate the text. And because the text is set to HUD contents, it doesn't wrap to a new line. We can select both text layers and change their horizontal resizing property to fill container. This will allow the text to grow until it reaches the maximum width allowed by its fixed width parent, minus padding, and then wrap to a new line. Next, we want our card to be easily resizable. If we click and drag to resize the card, only the outer frame resizes, while the contents remain fixed. Select the card, hit Enter/Return to select all child layers one level down, in this case, the Image and Details frame. Just like we did with the text, we'll change the horizontal resizing property to Fill Container. Now, when we resize the card to be wider or narrower, everything stays together like we want. But we still need to fix the vertical resizing, which still doesn't work. If we select both layers and change the vertical resizing property to fill container to match what we did for horizontal, we'll end up with a weird but expected result. With both objects set to fill container, they're competing with one another to fill the available space of their parent container. They compromise and split that space an even 50-50. If there were 3 items, they each occupy 1/3 of the available space, and so on. But that's not what we want. We only want the image to grow and shrink. Let's change the card details auto layout frame back to HUD contents. And there we have it, a flexible and dynamic card that responds as we resize it. Let's rename this to card, round the corners of the frame by 8, and check the clip contents checkbox to see that rounding take effect. Apply a drop shadow style to give it some elevation off the page. And finally, turn it into a component. This looks great, but a big part of design is exploration. For example, we might want to explore a version of this card with the price associated with the travel package on the same line as the title, but right aligned. Until now, we mostly built auto layout components from the ground up. We haven't really changed their structure in any way, so let's learn how. Select the title text layer and use Command D to duplicate it. Since this auto layout frame has a vertical direction, it duplicates below it. This text layer will show the price of the flight or hotel, so let's enter a placeholder value. These 2 layers are going to share the same horizontal space, so we no longer want them to be the full width of the container. Select both layers and change the horizontal resizing property to HUD contents. Add auto layout and change the direction to horizontal. This new auto layout frame is set to HUD contents, and we'll need to change it to fill container to extend the full width of the card. Both layers are left aligned, just like in our previous video where we made a navigation menu. In that example, we use space between to push the objects apart. We can do that same thing here to get a similar result. Open the alignment file menu and change it from pack to space between to push our price to the right edge. This looks like the result we want, but when we add real content to the card, like a long title, or if we resize the card to be more narrow, the 2 text layers overlap. In this case, a better solution would be to change the title text layer to fill container so that the text will wrap instead of overlapping. And there we have it, another option for our card to compare and test against the other. Let's add some real data to this card to make it a bit realistic, and add our purple-blue color style to emphasize the destination of this flight deal, and bring some of the brand colors into the card. In our final design, this card component is used in rows that contain at most 3 cards. Duplicate our card component to create 3 instances in a row, add auto layout, and set space between to 40 and rename it to card row. We'll also override these to have different content. Looking good, but now that we've wrapped these cards in a new auto layout frame, we need to customize it to behave how we'd like. First, if we were to use this in a responsive website with variable width, we want the cards to each fill container horizontally. Select the card row frame and hit Return/Enter on your keyboard to select the cards. Then, change their horizontal resizing property to fill container. Because we have 3 cards, each will take up 33% of the available space, while accounting for padding and space between. If we duplicate a card to add 4, they'd occupy 25% of the space, and so on. If the cards resize to be too narrow, or if we add a longer description to the cards, some text will wrap to a new line. Our cards did reflow responsively, but look at each of the siblings. They each behave differently since their content is different. Because cards within it are fixed height, they won't grow to be taller. This means that the only space for the card details to grow is upwards into the image. This causes the image to shrink, and for the card details to have variable heights. We originally set the vertical resizing to fill container for the image of our card. This made it responsive when we resized it manually. This is great when using the cards on their own, but when we added them to this row of cards, they function as one complete unit. In order for all of the images to always remain the same height, irrespective of their contents, we can change them to fixed height. There are 2 ways to do this. If you don't need to preserve the flexibility of the original main component, you can select the image in the main component and set it to fixed height, and all of the instances will immediately update. But if you want to have 2 different behaviors and keep the main card component fluid, We can override the properties of each of the instances by selecting the image and changing them to fixed height. Now all of the images are the same height. Now, let's shift attention to the card details. The text content is being clipped because the cards are set to fixed height. Let's change the vertical resizing to fill container instead. Nice. Now we can read all of their content. We can certainly leave these as is, but let's talk about one more thing using this as an example. Remember earlier when we said the cards act as a unit? When the cards at different heights, they feel less symmetrical. How can we make it so that when one card grows or shrinks, so do each of their siblings? Right now, the tallest card is set to fill container. The others are set to fixed height. The images are also set to fixed height, and the details are set to HUD contents. Changing the other cards to fill container doesn't cause them to grow yet. HUD contents is the only resizing property that tries to shrink. If we reverse this and tell it to also fill container, we should be good to go. Select the card details frame in each of the cards that are too short and override the vertical resizing property to fill container. It's important to keep the card that was the tallest set to HUD contents. This is the card that dictates the total height of the row, while the other siblings just follow along. If we were to also set the details of this card to fill container, Figma will display a toast notification that the card row has been set to fixed height. This can be confusing, so let's talk about it. Originally, the card row was set to HUD contents. This means that it adapts to the size of the child items within it. When they grow, it grows. When we change all of the cards to fill container, they're adapting to the size of the parent and trying to grow to fill it. These two resizing properties are at odds with one another and cause a conflict that needs to be resolved. Figma does this by changing the auto layout parent frame to fixed height. The opposite behavior is also true. If we set the row back to HUD contents, all three cards will be converted to fixed height. Depending on whether you have a child or parent auto layout frame selected, you'll have different properties available to you. If you ever get stuck determining which resizing property to use, stop and think about the functionality of the component you're trying to make and the context of which it will be used. If you enjoyed this tutorial series on auto layout, be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified of the next video. Thanks for watching.
Alright, y'all. How was that one?
In previous auto layout videos,
Pretty interesting. Diving more into auto layout a little bit. Any takeaways?
I think aesthetically it would be better. I know it's not really what the lesson was, but if the text were to just kind of disappear off of the frame as
As it was like a clip, so it's kind of clipped off the screen and kept the height same on all the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think aesthetically it looks better when the text, like all the cards are the same height. Or if you grow it, then it's like they're the same height, but then some have like less text than others.
Like if the text was like scrollable or something like that. Just scroll down.
Yeah. And typically how we solve that problem, at least in my world, is you just have a person write better copy, so they write it so that they're pretty similar character count. So if you write this copy so that it actually fits, you know you go about it. Yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna move on here to the exercises. So I'm gonna pull up Figma here really quick, but we're gonna be working on a couple more of those exercises from last week. So let me pull up that screen here and I'll share my screen again. Alright, so should you see my Figma here? Thumbs up if you can see it. Awesome. Alright, so last week we kind of worked on page 1, his alignment, which should have been level 1 through 4. Tonight we're going to pick up 2 pages, so we're going to be working on level 5 through 9. And then we're going to be working on page 3, which is level 10 through 12. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Otherwise, go ahead and get your Figma pulled up and start working on these. And just let me know when you are finished. Or if you need additional help, let me know as well. Any questions? All right. Well, thumbs up from everybody if you are good to go to get that started. Awesome. All right. I'll be on mute if you need me.
so you don't get stabbed. It's one of those catch-22s. It's a thing you can't know about or say publicly, but you need the information to not be stabbed.
Gotta wear chainmail when you go outside.
Chainmail's with a track meet.
Oh no.
I wasn't that fast in the hurdles this year. I had to wear chainmail.
Oh
It's way down.
Cut your negative thoughts.
Is this even interesting? It's even really interesting.
Anybody finished yet?
Yes.
Two, are you still working? You're done, or are you still working? Sorry. Two. Okay, alright. Well, so let's do this. Let's take a short break and then come back. We'll go over Project 6. So it is 6:54 now. Let's get back at like 7:15 and we'll go over Project 6. See y'all at 7:15.
54 years old. Bitch. You said 720 or 715? Is that backwards?
All right, everybody, I'm back. You all hear me? All right, so I'm gonna pull up Project 6. I'm gonna go over it together here. Share my screen. All right, you don't see my screen? All right, awesome. This as a reminder, so project 6 is due on the 6th of May. And then let's go over the project itself. So project 6 is going to be on responsive layouts. Essentially, there's some videos, resources to watch here. We've watched a few of them already, but the videos are here to watch before you hop into project 6. As before, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on this link. It should bring you into Figma. Once you get into Figma, you're going to, first thing you're going to do here is change, you're going to duplicate this file first. So duplicate the file, save it to your local drafts first. Once you save the file, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to rename the file, like before. So you're going to change it to your name, Project 6. So I'm going to do that for this one here. I'm going to say right. And then project 6. All right. So first things first, when it comes to project 6, there are some examples in here. And basically, these are broken down just kind of give you an example of what you're going to be working on. So essentially, you're going to be designing a responsive design for certain screens. So this first example here, you notice there's like a desktop version of the design. There's like a tablet version of design, and then there's like a mobile version of the design. And essentially, you're going to be creating one for mobile, one for tablet, and one for desktop. you're going to be using the same content and functionality present at each scale. And then you'll just be creating like the mobile and tablet version of that, depending on which one you get. So essentially, these are some examples here to kind of look through. But again, the idea is you're going to start with either a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile, and you're going to be creating the other one. So some kind of things to note here, if you notice, for one, on some of these mobile screens, where there's like a menu here, you notice there's like a regular menu here and a side menu. But on tablet, you have a hamburger menu, so those considerations you have to make as well when it comes to like, if you're going from like a desktop, kind of layout when it comes to like navigation to a tablet or to mobile, what kind of decisions make sense there, and then like other considerations around like the content and how it kind of flows. So these are all different examples of certain kind of pages to kind of consider. Once you get to page 2, this is essentially where you're going to make observations. So this is an example here. So you're going to be annotating essentially the things that you notice that kind of make something responsive. So for example, in this first one here, the user image goes from a small circular crop to a large rectangle with text overlay. So this is kind of like what it would look like on a mobile device. This is what it will look like on a tablet device, and then it changes into a different format here on the desktop. And again, this is an example of that. So you're going to be annotating arrows and circles. So make sure you use arrows to kind of point to what you're talking about. And then you have at least 6 observations for the things that you've noticed. So in this one here is an example. You're going to do the same thing here. You're going to essentially, for these 3 screens, call out at least 6 things, observations that you notice between like each version of that size. I'm going to pause here for any questions so far.
No, sure.
Okay.
I do have a question. Are we able to do it, like put the arrows, but also add the comments like we did in the first projects, or does it have to be exactly like in the example where we just put the text in between the arrows?
I would use the arrows in this regular text here, just so it's pretty clear what you're calling out, this one. So you could also use arrows here. These are where the arrows are located under the shape tool. So just use that pre-made shape tool here. Mine is backwards, but you could use that to quickly get arrows. And then you just could make those red pretty quickly. And then add like comments here. So the goal is to essentially call out for one specific element things that are different. So for example, you might want to say, oh, this navigation is like this, and then on mobile it's something else, on desktop it's something else. But the goal is to call out these 6 things that you notice between each one.
I was just worried that it would look like messy if we just put like a bunch of arrows and the text, but I see the point. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I don't think I can see you all here. Let's see if I could pull that up here. There we go. All right. So let's go back to Figma. So then on page 3, this is a page on responsive grids. So essentially what you're going to be doing on this page, you're going to be adding a column grid to each screen using the settings below. So I'll do this first one to kind of show you how that works. So for example here you have for mobile, which is this first one here, you're going to create a column grid. So the first thing you're going to do to create a column grid is you're going to select the entire frame. Once you select the entire frame, to the right you'll notice there are some layout guides here. To the left toolbar, or to the right toolbar, sorry, you're going to click that plus, and it's going to give you a grid by default. You're going to want to make sure you change that from grid to columns. That's the first part. The next thing to kind of call out here is it says for the number, you're going to have 1, So you gotta make sure that count is set to 1. And then for the type, you wanna make sure it's set to stretch. For width, you wanna make sure that's set to auto, which it is. And then for margin, you're gonna set the margin to 20. And then for gutter, it doesn't matter because there's only one column, but this is essentially what it should look like for the mobile. And then for tablets, you can kind of do the same thing. You're going to select that frame and then set up a layout guide based on these criteria for tablet. And then you're going to create another one for desktop. Once you create the actual column grids, what I want you to do is I want you to actually save them because we're going to need them for later. So this is the one column grid here. Once you set up that grid, you're going to come over here and you're going to select we're going to create the column here, and then we're going to actually make this into a style. So we're going to hit plus, and we're going to create that layout style here. We're going to call this one column. And create style. And so now we have that one column grid here. And then if you come back to the layout guide, you should see that one column that you just made and be able to kind of use it. But the goal is you're going to make a column grid for mobile, one for tablet, and one for desktop. And this is going to come in handy later once you get to page 4. On page 4, you'll notice that you're going to see 2 different sections here. One is tablet first and one is desktop first. And what that simply means is we're only giving you the tablet version for this first one, and your goal is to create a mobile version of the screen here. And then you also need to create a desktop version as well, based on the content from these. If you double click into these, you'll notice that these are kind of content you could like cut and paste and grab from. So don't worry about having to remake all of these. They're already kind of broken down. Your goal is to design it for mobile, how that should look, and what you think that should look like on mobile, and then for desktop as well. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that when you do that, that you also apply that grid or that layout that you created, so that way, as you're laying out your elements for each size, you could have that overlay to kind of see where everything goes, everything kind of like blocks into place with those guides you just created on page 3. So far, so good? Any questions? All right, awesome. It should be pretty straightforward. So again, you're going to be creating from this content a mobile version of it and a desktop version. And then on the desktop first, you already have the desktop version. You're going to create a tablet and a mobile screen using those layouts as guides. And then that should be it. So this one should be pretty straightforward, I think, overall as a project. The content is all here. Just reimagine each one for the different sizes. And then on the final page, as per usual, for your thumbnail, add your name, and then add a little bit of style there, personal style, and kind of spruce that up. So that is project 6. I wanted to see what made 6. You have a couple of weeks to get that one done. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. All right, so if you don't have any other questions on project 6, I think we are good to go for this evening. Unless you have any other questions or concerns. If not, then I will see you all next week. Great evening.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Your
Bye.
turn.
Bye.